mother of 3, survivor, and a voice for those who've been silenced. This podcast is my fight to launch truth. Back at a system that broke me. Every survivor listening, you are not alone. I'm Autumn and Alec. Welcome to the Trebuchet.
Trebuchet, episode 12, season 1.
Hi, welcome to the Trebuchet. I'm Autumn and Alec. This was supposed to be our final episode, and I was going to share why I stayed for as long as I did, and how I eventually got out. But I'm a human being and I'm scared, and the events surrounding what ultimately led to my freedom are still under appeal with the state of California. And by the grace of God, I was just granted a remote appearance in those cases. So I don't know, maybe those will be able to be documented somehow in some way. But I want this episode to be about advocacy. I really wanted to do all these episodes from a position of strength and be really confident and really strong and as well spoken as I possibly could while still going through really intense trauma. And in this process, as I started to speak out more and more, people started coming to me for help. And it's kind of what they say, put your oxygen mask on first, and I always fail to do that. And then when other people I see putting their oxygen mask on, I go hey, take your mask off, give these other people some air. And then I have to stop myself as a survivor and go, they're just doing what they have to do to survive. And then I remember that they're just as scared as of their abusers as I am. And that by poking this bear, I keep thinking, okay, I'm fighting one person in my situation, but I'm also fighting the DOD. And I get really strong and really confident in the fact that I'm well-researched, I'm well-documented, I've got my policies, I've got the procedures, I've had multiple lawyers look at this at really high levels and say, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. And I know once this goes public, there will be a lot of people who come out of the woodworks, and just there always are. But the survivors are the ones that I'm the most worried about, because even the ones who've escaped and gotten out, most of their perpetrators are still out there. And even if they're not active duty anymore, that's what's so scary. These service members are civilians, and they're in corporate America. They're in private business. They're in private practice. The military trains these men and women, but mostly men, and then weaponizes them psychologically and unleashes them out into society, where they go on and perpetrate further bad acts on other civilians. But they're never going to be held accountable because they're in such high positions of power. And I guess it just kind of dawned on me today that that is the bear that I've poked. And I want to be very clear that this has come at a huge personal cost, and it could come at an even bigger personal cost. I mean, I could probably will lose my life for this. Like, I'm not suicidal, but if I just fall off the face of the earth, probably gonna have to change my phone number. So if you've got my Alaska number, sorry, miss you. But if the government wants to get me, they will. And it really just comes down to, do I run and hide now? Or do I get out in front of it as quick as I can so that I'm even more visible? But I don't know. I'm just really, really, really scared. And so this was supposed to be an episode where I talked about, how to advocate for yourself and others. So I was going to present the problem of like why so many spouses stay for so long. I've already kind of talked about it. And ultimately the way that my story ends is my abuser tried to use the authorities for years to threaten and scare me. Oh, well, if you don't do this, I'll tell the ambassador. If you don't do this, I'll tell your boss. If you don't do this, I'll tell this person. It was always just, I'll tell your mom, I'll tell your dad. Like, it's like I'm a grown up. My ex was like always threatening, he's going to tell on me to people. And now I'm like, go ahead, tell them all. I'm a naughty, naughty girl. Spank me, take away my birthday. Fuck, like enough. And that's kind of what's happened, I've lost so much in this process, and I keep thinking, what do I have personally to gain from this? And I pray to God, God, please hear my prayers. Please hear my prayers. That I hope to gain a future where my daughters don't have to be at work and be sexually harassed. A future where my daughters and their friends don't accept love that hurts. And a future where my daughters and my son and their friends, and my nieces and nephews, and all of the kids that I've ever taught realize that when powerful people hurt people who don't have as much power as them, it doesn't make them more powerful. It doesn't make them a winner. It makes them a soul that needs help and needs to evolve and to grow. And I just pray that, exactly what I told the police on the night that he claimed to be the victim of domestic violence. This is an Army Airborne Lieutenant Colonel, like an Army Airborne Ranger. And when the police came and I was too scared to show them all of my bruises and to tell them everything that happened, despite them giving me every opportunity and asking repeatedly for me to tell them, despite me showing this, which is something I wanted to talk about, but I don't know if I can do that tonight, but this is a sign if you're in distress and you need help. This is a sign that all uniformed service members should know, all police officers should know. If you see this, that means a woman or a child is in distress and they need help, or even a man. I tried to show the police that. I missed it. They weren't even police. They were glorified rent-a-cops at the Presidio. And I'm going to probably have to do another season if this ever actually makes it. If I don't throw it all into the ocean and run away. I'm going to have to do another actual episode where I go through how this all played out and then how to protect yourself. But I prayed for God to get me out, and he took me out, but he took me out the hard way. And he took me out the route that gave me the ability to live through every single thing that a true victim of domestic violence has to see and has to survive, so that when they enter the world of advocacy and you come up against another survivor who's scared and too scared to tell their story because they're scared of their abuser, right? Like, they're like, I've suffered too much. I've just barely escaped family court, just barely survived their wrath. I'm still getting their pension, whatever it may be. When you come up against that, it doesn't bother you because you go, okay, well, I've survived the trip to hell and back, and I'm going to rise from the ashes and pray to God that I can be strong enough to bring back buckets of water for those still burning. So with that, we're going to wrap the Trebuchet. We're going to see how family court plays out. I will be releasing the Trebuchet files, the documents, everything will kind of be disclosed in there as in terms of like CID reports, intelligence reports, FOIA documents. I just got a big trove back today, and we will see, how that's going to be structured in its release, because this needs to be told at a bigger level with true investigative journalists, like individuals who can put these timelines together, who can remove me from the story. Because as I said at the beginning of this, like, I don't want to be the hero. I don't want to be the villain. I don't want to be anything but just the voice that puts a story of what happened to me and my children out there, so that anybody who resonates with it, who has been eaten alive by this system, can say, did you hear what happened to that girl? It's like what happened to Grimes. It's very similar. Did you hear what happened to her? That's what happened to me. And then when civilians start to hear about it from other survivors who start to come forward, more and more of the DOD, they'll go, oh, I've heard about this, which is exactly the case that's been happening right now. Is, civilians need to be aware of the toxic dependency cycle of the industrial military complex. And if I get to be that voice that talks about it, awesome. Sorry, I should be more, it's like, okay, I would really rather a different, like I'd like to pull a new string, God. I'd like to roll a new hand in the game of life. I would like to be doing something else with my life that isn't this. But this is the hand that I was dealt. I've got a loud mouth. And when I'm not crying in my Wheaties, I'm able to think clearly. I can occasionally use that voice to do the right thing by people who genuinely need it, because my heart is always in the right place. That's the biggest gift that God's ever given me, is just putting my heart in the right place and having the compassion and understanding to see when a person is scared that it's not me who they're having those feelings towards, their own internal battle. It's the same reason I pushed people out of my life years ago when they got too close and found out what was going on in my marriage. But all that to say, thank you so much for joining us on the Trebuchet. I was going to have a huge list of resources to send you all, but at the end, they're already going to be included at the bottom of every single episode. And the absolute best one that I have seen so far, ironically, was watching the O.J. Simpson situation of like what happened to Nicole Brown Simpson. And a number of times in this journey, I have said, please don't let me be the next Nicole Brown Simpson. Please don't let me be the next Nicole Brown Simpson. Like, I want to live through this. Please, dear God, don't let me be her. Netflix has a resource, and it's called Wanna Talk About It. And if you literally just Google wanttotalkaboutit.com, it'll take you to a Netflix page where you can watch interviews with survivors. You can watch testimonials. It gives advice, like if you've been the victim of a certain type of abuse, what you can do, what resources are available, or if somebody comes to you and discloses their abuse, how you can help. And I guess that would be like my biggest, like my only ask is, like, if you have been fortunate enough never to have to experience domestic violence, when somebody comes to you and tries to describe, I saw something that said escaping domestic violence is like riding a surfboard in the middle of riding a surfboard in the middle of shark-infested waters, except in a storm, except your surfboard is on fire and the people shouting advice from the shore have never swam in those waters or surfed in their life, and then they're judging you for how you do it. And I was just like, that's domestic violence in a nutshell. That's the Trebuchet in a nutshell. Judge me if you want, come for me if you want. The DOD's already got my number, so trolls in the comments, like, come on. If I'm already scared that a Special Forces uniformed service member is gonna off me in my sleep, do you think a couple of comments are gonna hurt me? No. But, slow plug, if you're a DOD member and you've watched this all the way through and you're one of the good guys, and I know there are good men out there and good women who've done the right thing, who've protected me at their own detriment, well, not even at their own detriment, at their own cost when they didn't have to, but they did the right thing because they saw the bad thing happening and they stepped in. If you're one of those people, one of those service members, want to offer security, I'd really appreciate it. And if I disappear, I'm going to be with Snowden, wherever he is. I'm going to find Snowden and Assange. We're just going to have a nice little Bigfoot expedition. So, for my babies, this is for you. I love you with all my heart and soul. I would rather be watching you jump on trampolines, brushing your hair, and making you dinner and tucking you in at night. But this is where I am. This is where our journey led us. And someday we will look back on this and go, oh, we got through it. And we broke the cycle. So, I love you. And thank you so much for watching the Trebuchet. That's it. That's it. I gotta be done. I don't want to do that. What did they say? They said something at Mass the other day. They said, oh, happy day. Or no, oh, happy faults. Oh, happy faults. Like, you lost your home in the fire. Oh, happy fault. You kid went to rehab. Oh, happy fault. You spent that, like, that was what the priest kept saying. Oh, happy fault. Oh, happy fault. I wish I wasn't so scared. Like, I really wish I was, like, just not scared.
Human.
Huh?
You're human. You have heart. Nobody realizes what you're really going through.
Turn it off. I'm done.